Just a name instead of something.
We can have a meeting for dessert. Oh, has been canceled.
Read your agenda. I'm just waiting on Amy.
Still have proper welcome.
I know.
I like
That's
the
why I
proper
said-
welcoming. That's good.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the June 21st, 2022 meeting of the Logan City Municipal Council. Our opening ceremony was, actually Amy texted me and said that she knew of some people at the university who would be wonderful to come and talk to us about Juneteenth, which is a somewhat new holiday for some of us. And I welcome Cree, sorry, excuse me. The minute it came out of my mouth, I knew it was wrong. If you come up to the podium, we would be happy to hear what you have to say. And please introduce yourself to those in the great wide world of television.
Well, we appreciate your time here. My name is Ahmad El Hardiman. I am a fourth year doctoral student in the Department of Human Development and Family Studies, and also one of the original co-founders for Juneteenth. And to answer the call here, one of the things that we had in our original outline for Juneteenth event series last year was educate. And one of the reasons why we had that is because it's important that individuals understand a lot of the true education or a lot of the history that around Juneteenth, because there's a lot of swarming, as you all very well know, swarming information. And we want to back up. We want to help provide the actual education of our ancestors, particularly mine, who were enslaved, and understanding the Emancipation Proclamation did not actually free all slaves, but it took an additional 2 years for all slaves to be free, and that we are here to celebrate that and honor where we were and where we are today. And that's one of the pillars that we have. And I'll turn it over to Jamal Jared for the other pillar.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Jamal Jared Alexander. I am a recent PhD graduate and now assistant professor at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So you guys called just in time because I had to get ready to leave.
Good timing.
I am the other original co-founder that started this event last year. And when you think about celebration, that's one of the key initiatives that we really wanted to bring to the city of Logan. Not just celebrating minoritized individuals, but specifically African American and Black experiences. At the same time, being over recruitment and retention at the university, I saw this as a good retention initiative for all minoritized individuals, utilizing Juneteenth as a key way to celebrate as a community. And moreover, when you look at these type of events and then spreading this out for our Muslim community with Ramadan, or looking specifically at our Asian and Pacific Islanders, looking at AAPI Cultural Month in the month of May, Juneteenth is an example of what we wanted to start an initiative for months and months to celebrate all minoritized communities. And more importantly, when you're looking at celebrating each other, it's unity. We wanted to do that through religion. We wanted to do that through politics. We wanted to do that through social norms. We wanted to figure out a way to bring everyone together as a community, to bring more minoritized individuals to the state of Utah and specifically to the Logan area. And lastly, our last one is activate.
Okay, I'm Cree Taylor. I wrote mine down. I'm gonna have a baby in like 2 weeks. So I was like, I need to write this down. I can't think about anything. I am a lecturer at Utah State University. I graduated from Utah State with my bachelor's degree in 2014, with my master's degree in 2020, and now I teach up there. I teach writing. And I got involved this year because Amon was doing his exams and they asked me to kind of fill in. And I'm going to talk about our third pillar, which is activation. And so here's my spiel I had to write down. So I wrote, back in 2007, Logan City unveiled the new model, United in Service. The USU Juneteenth event series is a great place to help us as a community better exemplify that motto. Let me explain. During our Juneteenth event series, our student athlete alumni, we had a panel of 9 student athlete alumni that came back to talk, and they talked about how the people of Cache Valley were really nice to them. They sort of felt tolerated because they were playing for the Aggies, and this community loves its sports. However, they never felt truly welcome and included in the community. They just felt like people were being nice to them. The majority of Black student athletes who come here for sport, they get their diploma and then they leave as fast as they can. They don't feel as connected to Cache Valley or the university because they never felt truly welcomed. And what we want to do is first, well, not first, I'm the last speaker, but we want to make sure that we thank Mayor Daines for working so quickly to make Juneteenth a city holiday, as it was made a state holiday and then bam, a city holiday right after that. We're really grateful for that first step. We want to recognize that that's a first step towards making Cache Valley a community where everyone feels welcome, included, and supported, and united in that service. That's our city motto. Events like the USU Juneteenth event series let our community members and our students know that this is the place for them. They belong here in Cache Valley too. And we want to invite Logan City, the mayor, and all of y'all as a Logan City Council to collaborate with us in the future as we continue to work to help this community live up to that motto of unite in service, to continue to take steps. And we're just grateful to all of y'all for having us come out and talk more about this event.
Thank you.
I was hoping you were going to sing, Cree.
I don't think I have it in me anymore. You gotta be careful. What do you want to happen here today? Does everyone want to go home? What do you want?
Would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I've been this since like second grade.
That's okay. We'll help along.
You just say ready, begin. That's all. So if you want to say it, come on, I'll do it.
Yes.
You say it. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And good luck at your new
Yes.
job.
I will say the activities that they put together, Friday I was able to go to one of the panels. Saturday, what I thought was really amazing is they brought the celebration down to Logan as opposed to keeping it up at USU. They had a barbecue celebration at Bridger Park. Barbecue was amazing. It was great to see so many different ages and faces and ethnic cultures all together there at Bridger Park. It was pretty remarkable. Thank you so much for that. And then topped it off on Sunday night with an interfaith celebration at the Taggart Student Center, where a wonderful gospel choir was there singing, and Cree sang, and I found out about the Black National Anthem, which is something I was not familiar with. So you truly did achieve that second pillar, or the first pillar of education. I learned so much about the importance of Juneteenth and just what we all can do to, as you said, make it a truly welcoming community as opposed to just, oh, they're so nice. So thank you so much for sharing that with our community. Really appreciate it.
And you're more than welcome to stay, or you don't have to.
You'll very probably leave.
Appreciate
you all. Thank you.
Thank you so
It
much,
gets
and good luck in the
exciting
next
here.
2 weeks.
Yes.
It'll be great.
Our next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes and the approval of the agenda for this evening.
I will move acceptance of the minutes and approval of the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our regular meeting schedule is the first and third Tuesdays at 5:30. Our next meeting is July 19th. There will be no meeting on July 5th, so please don't come and try and share the joy with us. We'll be doing something else. Item 5 on our agenda is for questions and comments for the mayor and/or for the council on items that are not otherwise on the agenda. If there's anyone who wishes to speak, please come to the podium, state your name, and take 3 minutes or less. Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Mayor, it's time for your report.
All right, thank you very much. I am delighted tonight that we have a board appointment to ask you to ratify. We have Russ Price, who is sitting here on the front row. I'm sure you know him from his Planning Commission days. He's served the city well in other areas, and he has agreed to be a member of our Civil Service Commission. They review public safety and some other things, and that happens periodically. So he's willing to accept that assignment, and I would ask for his ratification. And Russ, if you'd like to stand up, well, I think most people know Russ, but thank you for your willingness, and turn it back to council.
Hopefully this will be less complicated than Planning Commission.
I've
Make it as complicated.
I've known Russ for a long time and have a great respect, and he'll do a great job, even in consideration that he's an architect.
Oh, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Awesome.
Promotion motion.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Item
you.
2.
The next item on the agenda,
Welcome,
Aaron
Russ.
Smith. What?
I just said, welcome, Russ.
Exactly. We will have Aaron, who is our Neighborhood Improvement Manager, give us an update on the 2022 Public Art Action Plan. We've had a couple of exciting things happen recently. We're finally moving from the planning stage into the implementation stage. So Aaron, thank you.
I don't know the newfangled controls over here. Do I have to hit something to make a monitor go on? Just look at Jeff and
Ooh.
Good job.
Oh, you just looked at it and
Yeah.
it worked.
Oh, there we go.
there we go. Oh, there it is. All right. Well,
Thanks for
Council.
scheduling the reception not during council time.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That was great.
The budget meeting didn't appear on my agenda, so
Yeah.
on my schedule. So I apologize about the previous social happening
okay.
during a budget meeting. So yeah, I thank you for giving me some time to talk about the public art plan, where we're at, where we've been, and where we're kind of trying to go with things. We write this plan just as an opportunity to lay it out there for us to understand, for folks to understand what we're working on. So it's really broken down into 4 parts. The plan itself, it's a narrative, it's goals and objectives, the budget, what we're working with, then the proposed project. So I'm just going to really go through those, give you an update. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to see some of our recent accomplishments. So we have got our mural, Art in the Park mural program underway this year. 2 murals are finished. The one on the bottom left there, the Merlin Olsen Tunnel, that goes under Center Street. That was finished about almost a month ago now, a few weeks ago. Time's flying and we're having fun. And then we just finished the park mural, that mural at the soccer park, which was painted by Susie Gonzalez, and that was, we had a social last night. Appreciate everybody who could attend that. It was great. And so we have one more mural coming up. This is the renderings of it. This is also going at Merlin Olsen. This is on the ice rink building, that north-facing facade. So that should be starting this week. And so that was our art in the park. That was our major project for last year, as far as art in the community. So now looking at next year, we're looking at what can we do better, where can we improve, where can we go. Our goals are there's just 3 main goals. One is to cultivate partnerships. We were kind of sailing the ship in the first year. It was us wanting to do projects. So we're looking this year to make sure that we are engaging more in the community, engaging with arts organizations in the community and artists. So that's one of our main goals, to cultivate partnerships. Pursue grants. My bullet there, we have received a grant from the Utah Arts and Museum, a project grant I'll go into. That will come as a budget resolution at a later date, but we have been awarded a grant, and then we'll have some matching funds. So we've checked 1 mark there for pursuing grants, and then establish branding identity, and that's just to continue to promote the program and get it out there in the public eye and make sure that folks know about us and know what we're up to. Budget, the line item budget's one similar to last year, 10,000 that's coming through. This is obviously just a staff report. I'm not presenting a budget resolution or anything on these tonight. Then the Utah Art Museum grant for 4,500. Which brings us to our projects. The first project would be a downtown mural grant. This is with city funding to promote public-private partnerships to incentivize murals in the downtown area. This would have a match requirement for business owners or building owners. They come and get some money from us to help them fund a mural, and we're working on a program guide for that right now. The second one, this one doesn't require any funding, but it's just one project that we continue to chip away at and develop, and that is kind of a plaza walk, sculpture walk along the Boulevard Trail. We're working with the engineering department to facilitate sort of the next steps in planning and get us to some construction drawings so we can go out and get that funded in a later action year, in a later year. And then the one that was funded with the grant is a downtown beautification project on our lovely construction fences. So the idea here is to have muralists paint on banners, and we can then hang those on the construction fencing in downtown. This will also have a public participation component as well. The muralists will have to attend some of the local events. Cash Farmers Market we've reached out to. There's a Latino festival coming up. There's a few other events that we'll have the banners at. Public can participate in painting the murals, and the idea is to emphasize local artists on this project as well. And that is the projects, the proposal for kind of where we're heading with the public art plan. I'm happy to answer any questions for where we're heading for the next year or about what's going on right now.
This is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that businesses can participate at a one-to-one match if they have like a building that needs to be beautified.
Yeah.
Or you want to like
Right.
do something downtown. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized that was available. So
Well, hopefully it'll become available here as I work on that program guide, and we can start to promote that. We've had some interest as we've started this, when we adopted the plan, we had some interest from local building and business owners to get some art up, and we'd like to help facilitate that.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin.
Yes, thank you very much. And the last item under my report is an update on library and center block. And as Erin mentioned, again, we have so many great construction projects going downtown. It will be fun to have these temporary banners, and we'll probably start on Center Block Plaza and then maybe move to the library, so they'll have some life for us to enjoy during those projects. But the library, as you can see, if you've looked outside, the footings are in place. The steel has been delivered. We always thought that would be what could really slow us down because there have been supply chain issues there. It turns out there is now a shortage of cement in the state of Utah. I guess one big batch plant went down and everyone in the state is waiting. We've gotten a little bit to, they've kept working on some other things, and they've got the footings poured, but they need big quantities for a big pour on that, and also our 100 West Bridge. They just have to have huge quantities at once. So they keep telling us that should get resolved, but that is slowing things down just a little bit. But again, other than that, things are going well. Center Block, the public is invited to the groundbreaking, which will be on Thursday. We're delighted to sort of formalize that. Again, the demolition contract, which includes kind of what the work they're doing on the Plaza 45 walls, that's still being wrapped up, but the bid has been awarded to Spindler, so it's great. They're already mobilized, will be on site, so that will be a smooth transition. Again, they waited for rebar for some of the new footings they had to pour, and so they're a little bit behind. But we're tickled that it's going ahead. Again, I just thank the council for their tremendous support and partnership as we work together on these big projects like the library and Center Block. These will really be things that advance our goals, which is to revitalize downtown and to get people out of their cars, to make our downtown more walkable, more pedestrian friendly, and to be, just a really great downtown to draw people. And again, our housing on First South that the RDA incentivized. So I think we really had a great set of goals, and we are working at those goals very specifically, and we're underway. So I'll keep you updated on that. But hope to see any of you that can join us on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. on site at the plaza.
Excellent. It's wonderful to see the projects sort of, even if they're inching along, just to see them coming along is good.
There's a new life in the downtown, and that's good.
There really is. And again, the first project we did with your cooperation and with the help of the Center Street owners, where we did the special assessment area, again, I think everyone caught the vision, and on that poster that Jeannie gave me, which is Roger Brooks' top 20 ingredients of an outstanding downtown, one of the 20 was create a demonstration block, and so people can catch the vision, and we've done that. It's a great pedestrian, walkable street with the dining, it's curb appeal is there, I mean, so many of those.
And the market.
Right, the market, so.
That's cool.
And as part of the center block walkway, again, we hope we'll have enough money we're pretty sure we do, to enhance the walkway behind, to connect Center Street to 100 North, and then eventually connect to 100 South on the south and all the way to the library. So,
That's my vision too. That's great.
so thank you again. I appreciate your support, and you're catching that vision as well, or imparting the vision to me. I don't know how it works, but we've all been in it together.
Exactly, we have. And that's wonderful. That's the way it should work, I think.
I know people are excited for the public bathrooms.
Oh,
Seriously, I was like walking around and someone was like, I'm so excited for having the bathroom downtown, because that is a big issue.
That was one of Roger Brooks' top 20 things. You need to have public restrooms available for people if you want them to stay downtown and shop and enjoy the ambience and spend money.
can I do a little side? Did we resolve the issue of bathrooms at the cemetery?
My understanding is they have porta potties, and in their overall master plan for the cemetery, which they're working on, there will be some sort of accommodation for that. But my understanding is,
No, they're there, I've seen
yeah,
them.
I haven't.
Good.
I've walked past them many times.
Well,
Again, not the most attractive right now, but at least we have a sanitary option for the moment.
I'm
And
just sensitive to the people.
some of the
that-
visitors we had
Yes.
and their comments, yes, I know what you're referring to.
I'm very sensitive to that. Okay, on council business, the only thing we have is a planning commission update. I was unable to go to planning commission, but I do know that they reviewed at least one short-term rental, which is nice. It went in front of planning commission, so they're aware of where they are. The public had the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. And there is a Villa 364 rezone from commercial to town center at 364 South Main that we will be seeing at a later date. So that will come back to us before it's official. The other short-term rentals, there were two that were talked about last meeting and two that were continued. So I guess it's kind of a good thing. They're getting on board to do that and getting licensed, and that's all good.
That was our intention.
Yep, that was our intention. So we'll move now to our action items. Isa is unable to be with us this evening, so Madeline will be presenting on his behalf.
Hi. Yes, I was recruited the last minute, so I apologize. I came straight from the plant here. So
Introduce, I mean, we all know who you
Yes.
are, but introduce yourself so everyone that is here knows who you are.
yes, my name is Madeline Tennant. I'm the wastewater treatment plant manager for the city.
She manages the $150 million wastewater treatment plant that we are cutting the ribbon for on Monday. So
Yes.
everyone come for that.
Yes, and Isa wanted me to remind you all of that ribbon cutting. We're super excited. We've been doing some activities this week to get prepared for that, so we're really looking forward to having everyone there. The purpose is to present the Municipal Wastewater Planning Program Annual Report. This report is one of the state requirements because we've received financial assistance from the Utah Department of Water Quality to build the plant. And so this will be an annual report that we will fill out each year. This is a pretty generalized report. It's just to kind of give an overview of the financial standing of both the plant and also our collection system. So both myself and Joe Hawks from the water department completed this report. And basically the overview is that we're in good standing. So this report has already been submitted to the state, and they have been informed that we were presenting it to you for approval as part of this. So any questions on this report?
So will you, for the sake of our audience, would you explain that we got financial assistance from the state, but we do have to pay it back?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So we have a long-term loan, and if you could sort of just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, the new mechanical treatment plant cost $150 million to construct. $100 million of that was money that we borrowed from the state of Utah. 90 million of that 100 million that we borrowed is on a 30-year loan. 10 million of it is on a 10-year CIB loan. And so, oops, sorry.
I know, Jeff's trying to moderate that right there. I see him working on his laptop.
So, yes, over the next 30 years, we will be paying back the majority of that, which is that $90 million loan. So,
And the remainder of the amount we had worked on saving over time.
yes. And we've already started to put money away for future expansions. And so that's part of this report as well as just our general plan for future expansion to ensure that we've taken that into account. So, yeah.
So when I was looking through the report, I know that through Bragg, we had a heat assistance program, and it asked if we had an assistance program for people for their sewer and water bills. Is that something that would ever be something we would do with Bragg, or like that Bragg would take on? Because, I mean, for people in need, it's a need. I'm sorry, Rich, I know you don't mind, but it just struck me as I was reading through the report that was one of the questions they asked, and I realized we do provide through Bragg, not the city of Logan, but through Bragg there is a program. I'm just curious if there's ever been discussion of that for people who are struggling meeting their sewer and water bills.
You know, I haven't been involved with discussions with that, but we certainly could have one here soon to look at the details of that more. But I have not been super involved with
Yeah,
that
you're running the
program.
plant, so
Yeah.
you're busy enough.
Other responsibilities.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming. This is not a public hearing, but we do need to approve the resolution.
I move approval of Resolution 22-24.
I will second and just say I've been in part of the advisory committee on this, and CV Engineering have a huge respect for those who are running the plant and developing this construction. It's been a huge process. And we can be proud of what we have here.
And it was on time and on budget.
Yeah, they just kept raising, no.
No, it was.
Sorry, Rich. I gotta throw that in. No, I think we as a community can be very proud of what we developed and the funding and so forth. And so I second that. I guess that's where we're going on this.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you again, Madeline. And now we have a continuation from June 7th of a rezone request.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be super quick. This is just a quick recap. The property is about 31 acres. It's the northeast corner of the intersection of 10th West and 2nd South. It's currently a mix of commercial service zone and commercial general zone. The property is entirely vacant. The super block area there is a very eclectic mixed bag of uses. We have some storage units, some contractor type of warehouse space, UDOT's snowplow facility.
And some wetland.
And what?
And some wetland.
And some wetland, an old train station that's been converted to a cool restaurant, so it's a very eclectic area. The future land use map says mixed use is a good idea here because it's housing that's in close proximity to
services in downtown and schools. And mixed use does ensure that there's more local serving commercial, whereas if it were industrial or commercial service, those businesses may not be connected to the immediate neighborhood. Mixed use tends to have, grocery or retail or something that's a little bit more connected to the immediate neighborhood. The proposal is for all 34 acres to be mixed use. So the Planning Commission heard this. It was in April that they heard it. They did recommend approval at a vote of 5-1, Croshaw being the one nay vote. We did have a couple comments at the Planning Commission meeting. One was from the school superintendent. They both had some concerns. The neighborhood meeting at Ellis, this was actually an agenda item for the Ellis neighborhood meeting, along with a few other transportation issues. There were probably a dozen folks that came by the table and gave some comments towards this particular project. And last but certainly not least is the new mixed-use code language. So with the help of Councilwoman Simmons and Anderson, we have submitted some new language that regulates the mixed-use zone, and that is now officially a stake in the ground. It's been published on the website and on the agenda, and it will be heard next month in Planning Commission. And so they will begin that legislative process, and you all will see that as an ordinance in probably a month from now.
And Jess Lucero was really heavily involved as well.
Yes.
As chair of the Planning Commission.
And so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just to clarify, I was absent last time, so I apologize. But the mixed use has not been passed yet, but it would be effective for this property if we passed it tonight.
It would. It's called a pending code ordinance, and it would impact any project that gets in line behind it at this point because it's officially a stake in the ground. I don't think the applicant for this particular zone has a project that's ready to go. It sounds like it's going to be a month or two before they can design a project and get it submitted for design review and subdivision. But this is their first step in their process. If they don't get the rezone, then they won't move forward with the next step.
Any other comments?
It's not a public hearing today, correct?
No, it's not.
Nobody commented.
Well, thank you for expediting the stake in the ground. As you know from
Yes.
our last meeting, that was an issue for me prior to discussing the rezone. So I appreciate that we have that language out there and that
Well done,
those changes
Russ.
will be in place to affect any further mixed use, not just this project. So I guess I would, assuming it passes, but I would like people to understand that I had somebody ask, so you're changing your mixed zone for this project? And it was like, no, we're addressing what our mixed zone should be for the benefit of the city, and any subsequent projects, if it's passed, will apply. So I hope people don't view this as we're changing city ordinances to meet the needs of a developer. We're changing our ordinances to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community, and then those will be applied. So that's my soapbox.
Well, it's a good soapbox because I think that's really critically important for people to understand, that we felt strongly that mixed use was not accomplishing the objectives that we had hoped it would accomplish in the neighborhoods. And so we felt that we needed to make some changes so that it would better reflect what we hope the future of the neighborhood mixed use can be.
Do we have I haven't seen the mixed use. Is there something that's written that we can see?
It's Where is it?
Yes, I believe it was all emailed to you. It is on the PC agenda, and it'll be in that packet shortly. Don't want to get into too much detail, but yeah, just it changes the regulation a little bit, and we think it's going to change it for the better. Increases commercial amounts a little bit, rewards better design with higher densities, looking for more
Increases some
diversity.
setbacks from,
Yep,
collector
increasing
roads.
setbacks in certain circumstances to be more compatible with the surrounding, character.
If they do additional open space, can't they get some additional
Yep.
bonuses? But again, that would, if they choose to provide more open space, which would benefit the development in our
Open
view.
space, structured parking, all those things can be rewarded with bonuses, yep.
That all sounds good, and I like it. I like what I've heard. It's just funny going for something that I haven't seen, and yet,
Well, it still comes to you. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're not-
it's
oh,
sort
it
of
still
like a-
comes back.
Right,
No,
so
we're
it's
not-
going to
we're not
planning
voting.
commission, then it will come to you.
Okay.
It's just,
So I think given that when we just did the fluff, 6 months ago? Is that when we revised our fluff? Am
The
I
most recent
losing track?
update, yes.
And at that point in time, I think we all agreed that this block, mixed use, made sense for this block. So I would like to move approval of ordinance 22-11.
I'll second.
Beat me to it, Tom.
With all of that chatter that I gave, I still love the project, or what they're planning to do. I know it's not a project.
there's no project.
I know.
We love the potential.
You'll have to
There's
forgive
no
me.
project.
I like the intention that I've heard so far.
Yeah, the potential.
That's a second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can I add one more comment?
You can make as
So
many
we
comments as
did,
you like.
get, some emails and some questions raised by people in both the Ellis and the Woodruff neighborhood about the impact of this project. So just a reminder that as this mixed-use development plan comes through Planning Commission, comes here, you have an opportunity as a citizen to give voice either in writing, or showing up at the public hearings. This is all of our communities. So there's no secret plan that's out there that only city council has seen. This is your opportunity, though, to weigh in as this moves forward on what you think mixed use should look like across the city of Logan.
Exactly.
And this is, I always like to say that too often people come to Planning Commission because they don't like a project. But a project is given birth by the underlying zoning. So if you can participate in the underlying zoning, sorry, I can't talk today, then you get that when the project comes, it's not a surprise. So I encourage, like Amy, I heartily encourage anyone in the city to come and participate, so that you are a part of that base of zoning upon which things can be built for our city. So anyway, that's my soapbox.
Good
Anybody else?
point. No, it's a good point. I just like this area as mixed use, so it just makes sense.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Mike, what
Russ.
did you do?
What's that?
What'd you do?
Just a little surgery.
Another
Cracking too many water bottles open?
falling apart.
Yeah. It's called getting old.
No, he's had too much to type because we've made him do all.
Oh,
It's been that type.
it's all, it's our fault. I'll take
about us.
responsibility.
All right, Mike.
Okay, let's see. Let me get this. So this is ordinance 22-14. It's a South Logan Partners annexation. And this is a kind of a remnant island down off of the State Route 8991. Cox Honey is right here. This is Zollinger's warehouse complex around it. So it involves, basically, there's a parcel here, there's a parcel here, and there's two parcels there, and it includes a right-of-way down to this point right here. It's about 18, a little less than 19 acres. The FLUP calls out for commercial. Obviously, it's unzoned, but the zoning around it is both commercial and industrial. And the area to the right here is all Millville City. We're proposing commercial. This annexation request predates the annexation code amendments you'll see tonight. So that's why the zoning didn't go through planning commission. There's one issue that we've been working through. This shows you where Logan City is currently at. This is Millville City. Again, it includes this right of way down to this point. You can see on this aerial, not very well, there's this purple line right here. What we found out after we started the whole process and required them to include the right of way is that this property actually extends out to the center line of this right of way. So we've talked to the county, Craig and I have talked about it, got a legal opinion about it, read the state law, and our position, our opinion is that this area is pretty much de minimis relative to everything else. We've got signatures of all the other property owners, they control the majority of the property. So in our opinion, it's valid to proceed with the annexation. There's also a little sliver of UDOT down here, you can't see it, but it's just, there's a little tiny sliver that they ended up with when they realigned the road out by the highway. So this shows you the county zoning map. So this area right here is what's currently in their question. This is the area that we're talking about. It's currently unzoned, according to the map that we've seen, the county GIS map. And that's one of the premises that we've said is that if it's unzoned, it's not considered rural property, therefore they don't need to sign off on it. So other than that, happy answering questions.
So when you talked about the fact that the property owner owns to the middle of what would be a road,
Right.
an access point road, how does that property owner agree to that? Do we have to buy it? How does that work?
Well, this is a designated right-of-way, 800 West. This was taken out when the realignment was done. So it still shows up as a right-of-way. It's owned by the county. They maintain it.
Okay.
So in that respect, no, they don't need to sell or buy or transfer. Now one sidelight to this is that we're trying to put in a trail from the highway. Let me get back up here. The trail system that extends from Nibley to Logan to connect in with our park right here. This portion has been constructed. We want to construct this going down into Nibley within the next year and a half. There's money that's been set aside through, not CMAT, the COG.
CMPO?
Yeah. And so what may actually come out of this is that this property, we end up just either trading, doing a quick claim deed on it, or something that basically gets rid of the right of way and says, let's just put in the trail, the rest of it's yours, have a nice day. But we're still kind of evolving in that process with Jeff Gilbert and his group.
Because it'll never be a road?
Most likely will not be a road, not unless these folks of this property want to develop and build a roadway there, then we control that. They'll need to come into the city and get permits to access through our roadway.
But if we give it up,
well, that's the discussion right now, is do we want to see that given up for a trail, or can we accommodate the trail on the right-hand side of the right-of-way going up?
Okay.
By trail, we're talking a 10-foot wide sidewalk.
okay. Well, I heartily agree with the trail part.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Any other questions regarding this?
Good question.
This is a public hearing. If there's any member of the public that wishes to speak to this, please come to the podium.
Don't all rush at once.
Seeing, you're not here to speak about the annexation, are you?
No.
Okay, just checking before.
Just listening in.
Just close the public hearing. We'll bring it back to council for a decision.
Excuse me, could I get a clarification? You talked about a trail, but that 800 west that kind of goes over into that High Clone Road. That's the road, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't a trail kind of,
Yeah, trail, so you
See where
can't,
the trail starts?
south of this building right here, this is Millville, there's room in front of them to put in a trail. And then we're working with this developer south of here for a project, and that'll get included in their design. And again, it's a multi-use or shared use pathway, it's 10 feet wide. So instead of building a 5-foot sidewalk, we're talking a 10-foot sidewalk. And the idea is to extend that from Nibley and their park system up into Logan and our park system. So we've got part of it constructed already.
okay, thank you.
I would move acceptance of ordinance 22-14.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mike?
Okay.
Annexation policy plan.
Annexation Policy Plan 2022, this is Resolution 22-20. I'll just kind of breeze through this since we covered it last time in depth. So this is an update to our existing Annexation Policy Plan dated 2007. The important part about this, it doesn't necessarily lock us in any kind of forced annexation. It doesn't define a period of time. It just basically draws a line in the sand about how far out we're going to reasonably expand within a reasonable time frame. Doesn't identify land uses, doesn't identify zoning. It's just prep work for our update of our general plan coming up in the next year and a half. So this is the existing plan. This is what it looked like in '07 when the city adopted it. We went all the way out in the middle of the valley. This black line is basically where we're calling the western boundary now. So here's the proposed 2022 plan. That westerly boundary is this black line on this map. So we just try to scale it back, make it more reasonable, and then if there's a need, obviously, to expand and move further west, we will, but we should do that in a way that's managed. So in the plan, we've identified 6 different areas, and I'll go through those in just a second. Part of this effort, we look at population projections. We're projecting by the year 2040, we've got 11,622 new residents. We looked at U.S. youth population. That build out, they're projecting 26,000 kids that build out. And the important part of that is 75% of these kids will be living off campus, whether that's in Logan or whether they're commuting in, but the bulk of the kids obviously are going to be off campus. We've looked at residential housing analysis of what we've actually built over the last decade. So according to the census data we have, we've constructed 1,697 new residential units, which equates to 4,900 new residents. When you look at our building permit data, that time period plus 2 years, we've actually permitted 3,257 new units, which equates to 9,451 new residents. So there's a little bit of disparity between what we've permitted versus what the census has taught. Part of this, we've also looked at the vacant lands within the city, and I circled this because this is a, we get these requests for mixed use or commercial or multifamily because we're lacking available land that's suitable for multifamily zoning. So here's a map that shows vacant land in the city. When you look at this, hopefully you'll notice there's not a lot of vacant land available. The yellow on the west side of town and throughout, these are residentially zoned properties. Purple is industrial. This fleshy color is commercial services and the red is commercial. So there's not a lot of land available in Logan City. I think everybody's aware of that, even though we have some intense development pressure going on. So again, here's the map. 6 areas. Area A we just talked about. This is the last little island. Once this is done, then we'll just probably take this off of the map. Area B is the area on the south end of town along the highway. This was annexed by Logan City back in '07, I believe. And we'll talk about one of these parcels tonight, north of Maloof, from a disconnect perspective. Eventually, we'd like to see this cleaned up, that we go to the center line of the road. Everything on the east side goes to Nibley, everything on the west side goes to Logan. Area C is probably our bigger growth corridor. It's on the southwest side of town. When we looked at this, we just generally calculated out what the approximate growth out there would be with 1,700 acres. And you're looking at a mixture of densities, but potentially about 16 to 17,000 people out in that area. Area D is on the west side of town. Would be a mixture of residential and industrial and commercial. So the southern area would be suitable for residential, the north area would be suitable for commercial and industrial. And in fact, this area right here has been annexed in, and these people are now talking about annexing as well. So there's some pressure. Area E is our industrial growth area. Obviously, the biggest challenge out here will be wetlands, drainage, things like that. So even though there's 2,100 acres out there, probably a third of that will be unbuildable. Area F is up by the airport, and that's a mixture of commercial and industrial growth. And what else? Conclusions. We're running out of vacant land. This is required by state law. We've gone through a notification process for all the affected entities. We've notified them multiple times, asking for input, haven't had any comments back. So hopefully we can move this forward. So I'll answer your question.
So you told us last meeting, we have to do this every so many years?
It's not prescribed as, every 5 or 10 years, but we should be doing it probably every 5 to 10 years.
And that should coordinate with a redo of the master plan as well?
At least not necessarily a redo, but maybe just an analysis, every 5 years we look at it to make sure our assumptions are still correct.
An update.
Yeah, an update, yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully get back on track with that.
But every community doesn't do this at the same time.
Correct.
So
I have a question. In those maps that you showed of the different areas, like one had 104 parcels, that has 62. Do we know, are some of those owned by groups, or are those all a lot of those parcels all individually zoned? I'm just thinking like long-term
Right.
development, if there's 130 parcels and they're owned by 130 people, to consolidate those for any meaningful project is going to be significant, right?
Yeah, so I'd say there's a mixture of both. There's a mixture of individual ownership of separate parcels, and then there's a mixture of one or two parties who own a number of parcels together. But there's no pattern necessarily.
Okay.
So like in this area D, for example, the city owns a number of these properties up in here, associated with the landfill. These have picked up, for landfill buffer, wetlands, stormwater, things like that. But it just varies.
Okay, thanks.
Good question.
any other questions? This is a public hearing. If anybody would care to make a comment related to this, please come to the podium and state your name.
Dr. Gail Yost, I live here in Logan on First East. I'm just wanting to know on this projection, is this just a projection of understanding basics, or is there really a projection of the kind of neighborhoods we're expecting to see? Like, do we expect to see low-income neighborhoods, people who have higher income building there? Do we see some affordable housing in there? Do you have any kind of projection about what we will be seeing in this growth?
The answer?
Sure.
The easy answer is no. It doesn't give us any projections on type of housing, the strata of people that will be served. It's just merely, we got to pick a line somewhere that we think will grow into over the reasonable period of time over the next 2 to 10 years. Those questions get answered when we start doing the general plan as well as zoning.
So basically, the city council will be responsible for making sure that whatever zoning we have to go in there, because it isn't being really zoned right now, it's just being annexed?
It's not being annexed, no. It's just, so this is the existing map. Let me show you this real fast.
Okay.
So this is just the existing map that we have in our current plan. And what this says is that if somebody comes into our door and says, I live out in here, I want to annex into Logan City. So what the plan is saying is we should go through a methodical process to say that's either good or bad. It's good because it's in our growth area. It's bad because we can't necessarily serve it with infrastructure. So this doesn't annex anything, but what we've tried to do is draw a more realistic line where this black line is that said, you know, what can we reasonably expect from somebody that comes in the door? So looking at this area D, we had this one came in for annexation within the last few months, and this is a reasonable expansion of Logan City. Services are available in the street, utilities are there, water, sewer, things like that. But if this guy out here came in today, we'd probably say no, because that's a lot of infrastructure to extend out there to him. It doesn't define the zoning, doesn't define the land use. Actually, what we're trying to set ourselves up for now is when somebody comes in for annexation request, we'll now go to Planning Commission to have them look at that to help recommend to this group what the zoning should be. But as this sets us up for the general plan update, we do want to zone these outer areas so that we know when somebody comes in what we're anticipating to happen.
So basically, planning and zoning, of course, will make recommendations, but the city council overall will have the ability to decide whether or not we have affordable housing in any of these areas if they're being developed for residential.
Yeah, I mean, it's a policy decision, but that's a separate decision in a separate venue, a separate topic. This really is not related to just annexations.
Well, that's what I needed to know. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Are there any other questions or comments? Bring it back to the council.
Should I just be on a roll and be the
Go
one
for
to
it.
make the motion again? I would move acceptance of resolution 22-20.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? I would like to say that this is an opportunity for us to look at where we could possibly reasonably grow. This is not that tomorrow Logan's going to be that big, because landowners have to choose whether they want to be a part of Logan City or not, even though we've drawn the line. So a lot of your questions, Gail, were ahead of what we're doing tonight. So this is just putting out the framework, and then the framework has to get filled in with all the details.
I was looking also towards the future, the kinds of things that could be done.
Yeah.
As we talked about last meeting, other cities have also some of this land in their future annexation agreement. So yeah, it truly is up to the property owner to ask the city, and then for the city to decide whether, as you said, Mike, it's an area that we can reasonably serve at that time. So
Right.
it's not a land grab, and it doesn't mean these people are part of Logan.
No, it does not. Not today, but they have the opportunity should they so choose. Anything else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move now to when, Mike, you don't even get to get up.
Okay, this is ordinance 22-13. These are code amendments that kind of piggyback with the annexation discussion. And what this does is sets us up with some code language on how we're going to treat an annexation request, how we're going to process it. And the key thing on this is that it sends it through that planning commission process where they're going to have a chance to weigh in on whether or not an annexation makes sense, and then provide a recommendation to you for a zoning. So what we're asking people to do, or requiring them to do when they apply now, is to give us a little more certainty in terms of what the development plans are. What's your timing, what you need for services, where are we going with this, as opposed to just open-ended. This way we all get a little more certainty, and it helps for our utility purveyors as well. They'll know what the expectations are. So,
And it also helps planning commission not to be surprised.
that's correct. Happy to answer any questions. Excuse me.
Any questions? This also is a public hearing. If any member of the public would like to speak to this, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
I'll move acceptance of ordinance 22-13.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ambry. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so the first resolution that I'm here to present is 22-21. And what this resolution is providing paid bereavement leave to our employees that are affected by miscarriage and stillbirth. So this in the past legislative session that the House bill did pass 449, that we are required as a city to provide 3 days of paid leave to employees, again, miscarriage or stillbirth, it doesn't matter the gestation period, to full-time and part-time employees. So it is a state law that they had passed. Any questions? Yes.
If someone doesn't use it in 1 year, can they accumulate this over several years?
It doesn't mention that in the state law, so I would say no. We're still kind of looking at little fine details of it, but it didn't mention that, no.
It's
So-
per incident, so it would.
Yeah, it's per incident, actually, yeah.
It'd say that.
Per incident. So if you have a miscarriage, you would take it
Okay.
those 3 days, right when
And
it
it can't
happened.
be added to vacation or other leave? Thank you.
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Ambry?
We were very thorough last time, so.
Good.
This is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come forward to the microphone and state your name.
Okay. This time I'm speaking to this as just Gail Yost. My husband was working for the university for 21 years. And in that time, I had 5 different miscarriages as well as having my 4 babies by C-section. He was never able to just take off the time easily to be with me unless he used his own leave. This is a very important thing, that husbands be there for their wives through these kind of difficult situations. We got through them, and I finally had my last child, who is now 36 years old. And there are times I still wonder if it was worth it, because she's 36 years old. But I'm so glad that we went through that process and had those experiences, because it also led me to do foster care, to find the children that I had been missing, because that's what I felt my message was. Even if it were not state law, I would ask you to please pass this, because it is so important, not just to the mother, but to the father too, to know that he has the chance to work out the grievance, the grieving and the taking care of the situation. It'll bring the family closer. But when he was away, he didn't understand some of the problems I had with my own self-doubt and my own understanding about why these things were happening.
Makes sense.
And even though he was there for the medical part of it, having him there for after that would have been so much nicer for me as a mother who was trying to have that last baby. So I would ask you to please think of it that way and not just as mandatory because the state has asked for it.
Thank you, Gail. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? I'll bring it back to the council for a decision.
I'll move acceptance of Resolution 2221. I appreciate Gail's words. We've all suffered some things, and I think this is a good plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Rich, you're stuck in the middle. We should have moved Ambry. You should have moved you down after Ambry was done.
Musical chairs.
Well, this is a resolution for the fiscal year 22 budget. So this is to finish out the 22 year request to appropriate $30,500 for grant funds toward after-school programs. Unfortunately, the after-school program happens half in this fiscal year and half in next. So we do need to bring this forward to get us into the next fiscal year.
Again, this is a public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak to this, please come forward. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move for acceptance of resolution 22-23.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Amber, you're back up.
Me again.
We're happy to see you.
All right, the next resolution is 22-18, and what this one is it's an annual resolution that we have to bring before council in regards to approving member contributions to the Utah retirement systems, which our full-time employees we do contribute to. So this upcoming fiscal year. So what the city does is we agree to pick up 100% of Tier 1 employee required contributions, as well as the employee contributions as well. And when it goes to Tier 2 employees, we pick up all required contributions, except we don't pick up the employee required contributions for this next fiscal year. Does anybody have any questions regarding the retirement contribution?
Could you define the Tier 1, Tier 2 differential?
Yep, Tier 1s were hired before July of 2011, and then anybody after July of 2011 are considered Tier 2s, because the URS redefined their retirement systems, and so that date gave you a different retirement, which I'm a Tier 2. I was hired in July of 2011.
Borderline.
Yep, I was 5 days after, right on the border.
So you understand
like, I'm a
better
Tier
than
2.
most.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm a Tier 1.
You're a Tier 1 in my eyes, Amber.
Oh, thank you.
So what are Herm and I, what tier are we?
I don't want to go
You
there.
don't
You're
count.
Tier R. You're
How
Tier
long have you
R.
been here?
Retired.
I think you're considered part-time, so I'm not sure.
We use Roman numerals to do our,
I see.
yeah.
Okay, Amber, this is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come forward, state your name. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move acceptance of resolution 22-18.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 22-18. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now we come to the elected officials' pay.
Yes. So with Resolution 2219, we are proposing an increase to the mayor and council members' wages for this next coming fiscal year. So we're proposing the mayor go up to $113,721, and the council going up to $17,842. And so as I mentioned before, you know, there have been a number of years from 2008 that you guys never gave yourselves any increases. And with inflation and also, you know, trying to attract qualified candidates to the positions, that's why I'm proposing that we do an increase for you guys this year. We did one last year. I'm also proposing one this year. And again, the market study that I participated in that Ogden City put on, we are well below the average. Again, it pulls in higher or bigger cities as well, but we are also fairly low compared to the average. So that's why I'm proposing this increase with this resolution.
Are there any questions?
Can you just clarify the percentage of increase for the council and for the mayor?
It'd be 11% for both.
Thanks.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this?
Could you state your name?
Yeah, Herm Olson. I miss you guys.
We miss you
I
too.
miss you. Not enough to run, but I miss you. In 1974, I wrote an article for the Utah Bar Journal recommending a judicial salary increase because judges hate to ask for a salary increase. And I moved to Washington, D.C. and worked on Capitol Hill and recognized over the years I was there, senators and congressmen hate to ask for a salary increase.
Really?
Anguish and angst fills their souls.
Really?
Truly.
Okay.
They hate it. Naysayers will always have a jeering audience for people who enjoy the benefits of government but are not willing to pay for it. I wholeheartedly endorse the proposal by Embry. In my view, it is well-earned, well-deserved. Just do it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this?
Matthew Fatuesi, wasn't really intending to talk or anything like that. I just wanted to.
Would you tell us your name, please?
Oh, it's Matthew Fatuesi.
Okay, I can hardly hear you, so that's hard.
It's okay.
Sorry, it's Matthew Fatuesi. I just wanted to come up here and make sure that, I mean, I'm all for everybody getting raises and stuff like that. More money is great. Just want to make sure everybody's aware that averages are not necessarily like what needs to be like the criteria, like what everyone else is doing. You know, just make sure that you're getting raises for, you know, the effort. Just want to make sure that's the criteria.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Can I throw out just an idea? And my understanding is this staff is getting, is it 8%, Mayor?
Again, it depends. I mean, most staff will probably be getting about 8%. We have an 8% cost of living. Then there's an 8% pay for performance, but that is at the discretion of the department head. 4.4. Oh.
4% cost of living, 4% pay.
Did I not say that? That was
You
what
said
was-
8.
Oh.
You said 8 and 8.
Sorry.
I was like,
what? Is that was in my head, and so thank you for the correction. It came out wrong.
Chief woke up over there.
Sorry. It's a good thing I have people around to keep me straight. And then there will be some additional market rate adjustments and public safety adjustments. So those, again, depend on the positions that are really under that. So I would say that 8% is probably, 8% total is probably a more typical raise for most city employees. Did I get that right, Becca? Sorry.
The reason I raise it is because if the staff is generally doing 8%, and we're looking at elected officials at 11, that it just, well, sure, I would like to have more.
Yeah.
I wonder about the appearance in a time when people are struggling. The appearance of that, it's not going to make a huge difference in our weekly or monthly paycheck. Just wondered if anybody had that thought.
We've had to do 20 to 30% raises to retain people and to attract new people. So I'm talking 20 to 30%. So if we stick with market rate, we're way under what's happening, at least in my industry. So
I just threw it out.
no, I'm just trying to be realistic.
I will say, as I look at all of the responsibilities that our mayor has, since we do not have a city manager position, which many other communities do, to me, it feels like that's a justified increase for the 11% for the mayor's salary. You do a lot of work.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, thank you. But I like Tom, I have a hesitancy of council members having a higher rate overall than other city employees at this point in time. So my inclination would be 11 for the mayor and 8 for city council members.
Is that a proposed amendment?
I'm just trying to see what other people think.
Well, I know
before
we had
council.
2 votes, and you're obviously welcome to do what you would like, but do remember, there have been many years where employees have received raises and council has not. It's well in excess of 3%. There have been several years where employees received 3% and the council received none, as well as the mayor. So I agree with all the things you've been saying. However, my proposal still was the 11, but you're welcome to do whatever you'd like. I support what Anne Marie proposed for that very reason. Many years where we didn't do it. Many years where certain things happen for employees, and that's where our focus is. However, every once in a while, we do need to address council wages because we do want people, qualified people who are sacrificing to be paid for their service. So,
And I expressed this to Rich, and he reminded me that this is as much for future people as yourself. I mean, I would choose to donate the increase back to the city for a project, but again, you also have to think down the road and who you're, think about the future. So.
it'd be fantastic if council could adopt a salary for the next person who replaces them.
Yeah.
Everybody would feel better about that. But the problem is you can't. We have to set your salary, which your salary is what the next person who replaces you will be getting. That's unfortunately the way it works.
I feel like what we're paying is a barrier to participation for some people. And so the more we open this up with a larger salary, the more it incentivizes people to participate that would not otherwise. It's expensive to find childcare. It's expensive to take time off from work. It's a distraction. I mean, there's times where I sit in my office and I go, okay, I just got distracted for 2 hours when I should have been focusing on my business. I mean, how much of a cost does that involve? I mean, that's time that I could have focused on my business or on my family or on my personal time. And so it's a barrier to participation for people that might otherwise go, I can't do city council. I can't, it financially doesn't work for me. But if we increase that salary, then you can look at it and go, okay, I am being compensated for my time and I'm not making the same as I would if I started working at In-N-Out Burger in 3 weeks, I mean, honestly, some of the wages that we're seeing starting wages in the $15 to $18 an hour range, and there's days where I look at how much time I put into council and I go, okay, I don't think I'm making what I'd make it In-N-Out. So I think we need to make it so that the next people that take over are incentivized to be here and to perform and to not worry about the time that they're going to lose to something else.
Was that a motion?
I move to accept as is resolution 22-19.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
I'm with Herm. This is like, everybody hates doing this. That's all I can say.
Well, I can tell you, Herm voted it down most of the time he was on council.
And now it just took off.
It's Herm's fault.
I totally get it.
We have to do this.
So I truly hope that our citizens understand that city council does more than just show up here every first and third Tuesday for meetings. We all serve on other committees. We have other responsibilities. We spend time helping to plan other resolutions and ordinances. So,
And replying to constituents.
and showing up at neighborhood council meetings. So it's hard to look at an hourly rate, I guess, is what I'm saying, Mark, because
It is.
it's like some weeks it's 2 hours, and some weeks it's 30.
That's the only way I could make it work.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's right.
It's
I mean,
just-
some
it's so all over the
weeks it's
map.
like 2 or 3, and other weeks, like you said, it's a lot of time.
It's
And there's a lot of nights where I've stayed awake worrying about stuff, you know? It's like,
And as Jeannie has said a number of times, we don't do it for the wages. But it does compensate. Or I think you spoke well, Mark. I think that was good. So we have a motion second.
And a second.
Anybody else have any comments? There's a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That was a slow aye, don't you?
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Slow, reluctant aye from me. Make a note of that, Teresa.
Last year I abstained.
Is there a room on that for the resolution to?
All right, now we get the big bucks.
Yes. I'm just going to bring this up and then go back to my seat.
Why, you're just gonna leave it there for us?
Yeah.
Just scroll through by ourselves.
Wait and see that.
Wait a minute. You gave us that huge book, and then this is like it.
No, this is just the transfers.
I was like, wait a minute.
This is
The
just-
budget. It's like I swear I went through this huge thing. Breaks it down into like one little chart. That's like the whole thing.
I know. Of the 120-page document, this is the one page that we'll bring up for now at least. So transfers, we're required to hold this hearing, we're required to listen to the input, and we're also required to discuss these numbers and what they represent. So I've got a little spiel I will read, but a transfer is the movement of cash or other resources from one fund to another. Logan City has utilized transfers from enterprise funds as a general fund financing mechanism for many years, 30 plus years. Although I've been saying that for about 10 years, so I think it's probably closer to 40, but I don't want to go recalculate it. If budgeted for and planned for correctly, transfers from enterprise funds can help to defray the cost of services such as public safety, public works, parks and recreation, and other general government services, and consequently keep property taxes low, and I'll explain that in just one second. The Logan City Council closely regulates transfers from enterprise funds as a percentage of budgeted revenue. Council Resolution 15-40, which was an update of a previous resolution, I believe passed in 2008, established transfers from enterprise funds as follows: 7% from water, 5.5% from sewer treatment, because of an agreement we have, 8% from electric and environmental. Transfers from enterprise funds require special noticing and are contemplated and incorporated into each and every utility rate study and master plan. In other words, transfers do not just happen, but they're carefully regulated and carefully planned. But for transfers, to maintain the same level of service in the general fund, Logan City's only viable alternative revenue source would be a property tax increase. Because of number one, the high concentration of state, federal, religious, and other non-taxable entities within Logan City boundaries, and because of number two, the fact that Logan City also provides services on a contract basis outside its boundaries for which it receives the transfer. Because of those things, for every dollar that transfers are reduced, the Logan City Finance Department estimates that the average residential home would pay an additional $2.40 in property tax to compensate. To clarify and reiterate, to reduce transfers by $1 would require a $2.40 increase in property taxes. The reason for that is clear. When you have a ratio of revenue to the source which it comes from, and you decrease the denominator, you increase the impact on those entities who are participating. So in this case, if we reduce transfers by $1, transfers apply to non-taxable entities, and we go to property tax, which only applies to taxable entities, would require a $2.40 increase for every dollar that's decreased. Shifting the general fund financing burden from non-taxable entities to taxable entities, which, by the way, Taxable entities enjoy the same privileges to Logan City services that taxable entities enjoy would be unfair, in my opinion. Logan City provides sewer treatment and garbage collection services to jurisdictions outside Logan City's boundaries. These contract cities are generally happy to receive the service, and Logan City is generally happy to provide this service for a small fee, which is the transfer. The transfer serves as a reimbursement to Logan City and its taxpayers for the increased liability and general burden of providing these services. Now to administrative fees. Administrative fees are not similar in any way to transfers. The only similarity they hold is that we're required to discuss them at the same meeting. We're required to give the same disclosure that applies to both. However, they are apples and tangerines at the closest. Administrative fees are also required to be discussed. Administrative fees are charged for centralized services provided by the general fund to the other funds of the city. Such services include, but are not limited to, utility billing, accounting, payroll, legal, human resources, shops and garage is another big one, and facility management. Administrative fees are allocated by the finance department in a reasonable and rational manner. In other words, administrative fees represent the cost of providing services to these other funds, which they need to pay for. The largest, as you look up there, is utility billing and shops and garage. Those are my remarks, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise,
I have,
Go for it.
everything is going to general fund except for certain parts from environmental to the 9/11 and another one going to capital. How did you arrive at that amount? Is that an arbitrary or is that mandated? How do you arrive at that?
so first the 911, the only reason we're calling this a transfer is because we have no other legal justification for charging a garbage can fee, which we then use for our 911 service. That has been something that's been done in Cache Valley for a long, long time. Ever since Logan took over, that's the way we fund the 911. However, we do this transfers hearing and disclose it as a transfer simply so we have the legal justification. If the state ever comes and says, hey, how are you funding your 911 with a garbage can tax? We say, well, it's a transfer. That's all it is the legal justification. So that is the amount we collect into the Environmental Health Fund and then send over to the 911 fund so that they can provide those services. Entities, all the other entities simply send us an amount that's agreed to. It is based on the number of households or garbage cans. And that's how we fund our 911. At some point in the future, this may receive some scrutiny. The state may allow for it, and then we don't have to call it a transfer. Or the state may say, we think that you need to do it a different way, in which case we would have to turn property tax. That's the only mechanism that we really have. Very likely have to turn it into a district where it has its own taxing power as well. So that's just the future. Logan City does 911 because we do it. We stepped up when others needed us to, and so that's our gift to the community. Now regarding the electric transfer, that is the $500,000 of energy efficiency reserves in the electric fund that we are sending to the Capital Projects Fund to be used on energy efficient windows and the solar for the new library. That's what that is. And I'm not sure I covered that very well in our budget hearings, but I'm glad you asked that question.
So the 911 fund that we transfer is just that amount that is collected in Logan City?
That is correct.
Okay.
And this is an estimate. It's actually closer to 800,000. But the problem with budgets is I've got to have the legal justification to move those funds. And so I'm aiming a little bit high so that because it's based on the actual revenue that comes in.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Any other questions?
For those who run for office in the future, I highly recommend to sit down with Rich for about 2 hours to go through this really, really clearly and understand it, because I found it to be a little bit of a quagmire.
The first time around, it's confusing.
Yeah.
But then once you get it,
You get it.
It makes sense, yeah.
And once you learn that probably slightly over 50% of the property in the city does
Is
not pay
non-taxable.
property tax, I mean, how else do you operate a city when you really, lose out on that much property tax?
Yeah, especially a county seat like where we have a university, we have county and federal.
Right. We have
A lot of
schools, we have churches,
And
we
state.
have nonprofits. It adds up.
Yep. And many other cities do the same thing. Cities that have an electric fund historically have turned more to transfers. Cities like Provo, Bountiful, Ogden,
Murray,
St. George,
Lehigh.
they all do it, and their transfer is usually a little bit higher.
To me, it makes sense to have the users pay for it instead of just the property, the taxpayers, because otherwise, it's like I said, 2.4 times more. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot, and the user should be paying for that service.
And that is an estimate. Obviously, I'm trying to estimate how much power and other resources an average home uses, but I think it's pretty darn close.
Years ago, I heard more complaints. People would come in, and I think the public has become more schooled on this, or understanding of it. So.
It's an easy target, for somebody just to complain about transfers. We shouldn't be stealing money from our other funds. This is a way to avoid property taxes. These are the arguments that quickly can gain some traction, and people say, yeah, that's right. We shouldn't be stealing. We shouldn't be, trying to raise other fees just because it's easier. But once they understand the detail, I've had several, I don't know how many, not many this year, not any this year, but several in the past who've come in pretty angry into my office. And when they leave, sometimes they're not upset, but they also don't oppose it either. Yeah, they're not terribly happy, but they're also like, hey, would you please keep that in place? Thank you. Almost without fail. In fact, I haven't had somebody leave saying, we need to get rid of that.
This is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come to the podium. State your name. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council.
I move acceptance of the Logan City budget transfer. I don't know if it has a number.
You will adopt this as just part of the overall budget for,
Okay, we don't have to adopt it separately?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. Then, Rich, we'll move on to your next opportunity for a public hearing.
So another requirement of adopting a budget, we have to adopt a property tax rate. And in this case, we're proposing that we adopt the certified property tax rate that has been calculated by the state of Utah and by Cache County. This is not a property tax increase. Having said that, in years in the future, I do think we need to go back to increasing it incrementally, a little bit each year. The reason is property tax does not go up unless we raise the rate. In fact, each year as people's home values go up, our rate goes down to give us the same amount we received in the prior year. The only additional revenue we get is from additional customers, additional homes that are built, and additional businesses that are built. But remember, those come with additional costs and other requirements upon our budget as well. So while we're not proposing a property tax rate this year, we are proposing that we go back to raising it just a little bit. Maybe the CPI, once the CPI goes back to something that's more reasonable.
This is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come to the podium.
Yes. I came back from a trip to Key West for a wedding, and then to North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, to see a new grandchild. And both trips were wonderful, but I wouldn't want to live in either place because the costs there are exorbitant. If they came here, they would think that, how do they run this place?
They'd be overjoyed.
So I would like to say I heartily approve, because I know living in Logan is one of the best decisions we ever made, and that was 45 years ago.
Thank you, Gail.
Scale.
Is there anyone else? Bring it back to the council.
I'll move for acceptance of Resolution 22-26, no tax increase.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our last public hearing of this part of our agenda is the consideration of a proposed resolution approving the final revenue and expenditure budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 in a very large amount.
It's a huge amount. We've had multiple workshops, we've had multiple hearings, we've had multiple solicitations for input from the public. We're now asking that the council approve the budget of $181,611,003 for fiscal year 2023.
And $3.
And 3.
Is the $3
We
for
could have rounded
erasers?
it down.
And I
It's that one
appreciate,
extra 911 fee.
I just would like to say I appreciate all the hard work that the staff puts into creating this budget, all the department heads, the finance department staff. It is a big job, but this is the blueprint for what we do in the next year. So it's important, and again, I appreciate
very
all the
important.
work that each of them put into that.
It was evident in our budget hearings that everyone was very careful and considerate of the fact that they're spending public money and trying to get as many projects as they can possibly get done.
And conservative.
And very
I felt they were
conservative.
very conservative.
Very conservative. And we appreciate that, and I think we get an awful lot done for the size of the budget for Logan City. So, just my 2 cents. This is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council. And just remember, this does include the budget transfer.
I will move approval of Resolution 2225. And I think I've heard the mayor at least say we're going to build a library and a fire station in the center block with no tax increase. I think
That
that's
is correct.
that's commendable, and it's well managed.
And you have all basically that we've come to you with the plan, and
Well, kudos to the department heads and Rich for managing this.
And again, a lot we've done with the redevelopment agency, which is not general fund tax dollars, but it's specifically for redevelopment, so.
And donations.
And some donations,
And
yeah.
donations, yeah.
That's
We've
what I
had
was going to
some-
say, is we've had some very, very
So that's a motion.
kind donors that have participated, so.
So recognizing that not every need has been met in this budget, I would actually second the resolution.
Good job.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I get this side, or do I get this side?
We take turns doing this.
We've tried to be equitable.
So, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to all the department heads for their hard work.
Good job, staff.
We are way ahead of schedule.
Let's not complain about that. Yeah,
I was like,
No filibusters
it
now.
says 7:45 on here, and I'm like,
that's
You never know who's going to show up to a public hearing.
7:15.
I know, I was
Mine
like, 12
says
public hearings.
7:15, so we're right on, so.
We'll move now to our workshop items. Rich?
So now that we've adopted this brand new budget, we're asking you now to amend it.
Oh, good Lord.
This is a workshop for the 2023 budget that we will ask council to approve at the meeting in July. The reason we're bringing it forward now is we do need to move on this. This is a grant received by the library from the state of Utah to purchase Spanish books and other materials in Spanish.
Excellent. Any questions?
Where are you going to put them, Karen?
Something like I don't know anything about it, but it
She
sounds
says there have been a lot of people that have been utilizing the temporary library down in that tiny space. And again, I mean, they're doing a great job to keep up as best they can.
Well, pray for cement.
one of the more unusual prayers.
I mean, come on. You know, we pray for snow in the winter, we gotta pray for cement.
It's depending on what you need, right?
Mike?
That it? No Spanish books?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a workshop on ordinance 2215. It's a disconnect involving, let's see, MPI Group, also known as Maloof. But they wanted to make sure that the name reflected kind of where they're going with it. So this is property, this yellow is Logan City, this purple is Nibley. This is a site in question. Here's their existing facility down there that's currently in Nibley, and their request is to disconnect this piece right here from Logan, and they will be annexed into Nibley City. So we call it disconnection. Could have done a boundary adjustment with Nibley. It's kind of the same process, but this is what they've applied for. And it's just about 11 acres. Any questions?
Do we have services that go into that area?
We do not. Logan City does not. Nibley actually does.
Makes sense.
That's one of the big reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
You know, they need to expand what they're doing, and it doesn't make sense to do business in two cities.
No.
You know, adjacent pieces, so we.
Okay.
That was easy.
I said that was tough, but
I know.
So we did not make you type too much with your hand for
stick
that one.
around for that much. Yeah.
Are there any other considerations this evening? Hearing none, we'll adjourn as the Logan City Council, and we will reconvene as the redevelopment agency. I had to do something. It's too quiet.
Tom always made fun of me when I hit it twice too. I said, well, you gotta like close and open.
Yeah, and then close again. It's when you get to do it 4 times, it's a good night.
I know you're
I've
accustomed.
become accustomed to the bang.
Good evening, RDA Board. We have the first resolution, which is RDA 2222, is to appropriate $1,150,000 for incentive payments associated with the Blue Spring Business Park and Costco, to appropriate that into the 2022 budget. As Rich explained last meeting, that money had been proposed in the mayor's proposed budget for fiscal 2023, but because of work completed already by the developer, it triggered, us needing to pay them in fiscal 2022. So we're asking you to appropriate this into the 2022 budget. Of course, we won't spend it all in 2022, and then we'll do a
Then
carry
we'll have to
forward for the
move
remainder.
it back.
What's that?
Then we'll have to move it around again.
How did they get work done early?
I think you
Is my
guys owe us
question. How did
pizza
it stuff
for
done?
having us to extend another meeting about this.
Well, and kudos to the Public Works Department on getting that sewer in, which was a huge project because it was so deep in that area. I mean, they have pushed really hard, and again, the developer's gone ahead with the roads and that. So that project, the infrastructure has really
It has
gone in
moved along really
well in
quickly.
that
Yeah,
area,
yeah, it's
considering
moved
especially
fast.
the construction climate, so.
So just so that I'm always thinking about people who might be listening. So this $1,150,000 was allocated and given to Blue Springs based on their performance. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they had some things they had to accomplish,
That's true.
and then we reimburse them for that. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, the actual parties to the agreement are, excuse me, the redevelopment agency, of course, Blue Spring Business Park, and Costco. So their obligations consist of putting in certain infrastructure. Specifically, that's primarily the new road at 1200 North, improvements on 10th North, and some improvements on 10th West. And yeah, we're obligated on our side, which we presented to you earlier this year, or last year, whenever. But you did approve the expenditure for infrastructure.
And those improvements become Logan City property.
Say again?
Those improvements become Logan City property after.
They will, yeah, dedicate those roadways to Logan City. Well, 10th West is a UDOT road.
Yeah.
10th North is already a Logan City road, but the new 1200 North would be dedicated to Logan City, right?
Thank you, Kirk.
So, this is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come to the podium.
Either one of them.
Huh?
Either one of the members of the public.
It's all right.
Seeing no action in that regard, I'll bring it back to the council.
I move for acceptance of Resolution 22-22 RDA.
And I'll second the motion.
It's
There's no pressure. There's no pressure.
We don't want you to have to pivot too much, Jeannie.
Yeah, there's no pressure.
the south and the north.
Even though we've approved it once already.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And last but not least, Kurt, one more.
Okay, I brought my PowerPoint so we can walk through the 2023 budget again. I'm just kidding.
Stop it.
We presented the budget before, highlighted some of the key components of it. So I'll take any questions if you have any. Otherwise, we're just proposing that the RDA board approve and pass the fiscal 2023 budget.
Any questions? This is a public hearing. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council for a decision.
I move as part of the north component there. Approval of 2227 RDA.
Break it up.
I'll second the motion.
Amy, where were you?
Snooze, you lose, I guess.
It shows how united we are.
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
I move we adjourn.